The college football experience, Arkansas Razorbacks 2024 team preview episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. You can win up to 100 times the amount of money you enter with Underdog Fantasy Pick'em. Sign up today with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. That's underdogfantasy.com, promo code TCE SGPN. Rasa brought to you by Rhythm, RITHMM. Yes, feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme. It's more than bobsled time. Get the best data-driven props and picks from Rhythm. Claim your free 7-day trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm.
This is Mike Leach, head football coach at Mississippi State, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
Experience. Woo, big sweet. All right. 2024 Arkansas Razorbacks 2024 season preview episode. Once again, youtube.com/the college experience. We are going through every single college football team in the land. Yes, we will give the same amount of attention to, the likes of Utah State as the same as Alabama or Georgia, whoever. This year, we're doing it a little differently. I know a lot of people think alphabetically, but the fans that were Wisconsin fans, Wyoming, were getting all butthurt that, they were not being able to be talked about until August 20th. So we're going conference by conference this year. So we're jumping in right with the SEC. We already got the Georgia and Alabama previews out there. Auburn has been recorded. That'll be out later today. And now we do the Arkansas Razorbacks, folks. If you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, well, that's fair. My name is Colby Swinging Database Dan, a.k.a. Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. Would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
Oh, boy, I love to talk about college football in June. Well, we talk college football year-round on the college football experience, but specifically this program, I'm excited about. A, I got my buddy on the show, but B, there's been fireworks in the offseason. Yes. Folks, get on over to youtube.com. Hit that like and subscribe button. I am joined by my co-host for this episode. He is a lifelong Arkansas Razorback fan. He's pulling a Patty C, and the resolution on his camera might not be the greatest. He might be in Osama bin Laden's old house in Afghanistan, but great porn collection. So give it up for Chase Sessoms, the host of the Notorious OTB podcast, which you should be subscribed to. How you doing, Chase?
Doing well. I usually come on here and it's just like an exercise in delusion. So I'm here to tell you that I'm a realistic 11-1 this season.
11-1, and yeah, some of the offseason moves, I feel like there's a lot of room for optimism, and I think, and shout out to in the pod with J-Rod or Gerard in the chat. He's been going on about, you can tell he's a passionate Arkansas fan, and he's excited. I'm excited, and let's just lean right into it. It's a pivotal year. It's
either Pittman's wins or Pittman is gone. Like it's that year for the program right now.
I got some nice artwork, youtube.com/the college experience. And some say I'm the Picasso of this shit, but you got Sam Pulled Pork Pittman in a pivotal year. And, you look back at last season and you say, well, the guy didn't have a great year. You lost Kendall Briles, so the offense struggled, the defense struggled for whatever reason, 4-8. But man, I can't help but notice also early on, 7-point loss to BYU, 3-point loss to LSU. I guess 12-point loss to A&M, 7-point loss to Ole Miss, 3-point loss to Bama, 4-point loss to Mississippi State. By the time November came around, you did get your ass kicked in a couple games. 38-point loss to Auburn and a 34-point loss to Missouri. But you wonder if you had just won some of those close games, could the narrative be completely different coming into this season? What'd you make of last season? And I know coaching turnover within the staff. Kendall Briles leaves for TCU last year. You go to, what was it, Dan Enos, I believe.
Yep.
And now you have a shakeup again. But what'd you make of last season in general?
I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head with the fact that 5 of our losses in that 6-game losing streak were by less than a touchdown. It was just I think honestly a story of a bad offensive line. If you look at it, we allowed 47 sacks for a loss at 338 yards last year, as opposed to getting 29 for 176. Same thing with 24, lost 10, only generated 12 fumbles. The other team only lost 5. We just consistently got doubled up in these really important stats in terms of, turnovers and protecting the quarterback. And I don't know how you let KJ Jefferson get sacked that many times, because he's oh boy, he can shrug off a bunch of tackles. So it was hard to watch. It was really hard to watch, I think, was my main takeaway from last season. But there are things to be positive about, and there are a lot of things to be worried about.
Well, I can tell you this. I mean, one thing to be worried about is Sam Pittman's record within the SEC in 4 years. He's in year 5. He's 11-23 against SEC teams. He's 23-25 overall in 4 years. But, I put the record here once again. If you're listening to this on the audio side, that's fine. But on youtube.com/the college experience, you'll see these graphics here. He's 0-4 against Alabama, which, okay, understandable. 0-2 against Georgia. Okay, understandable. But 1-3 against Auburn, you do circle. 1-3 against LSU. And man, I feel like he's played LSU really good. I feel like those 3 losses, I think, are all by like 9 points. 1-3 against Texas A&M. You got to circle that one. 2-2 against Ole Miss, 2-2 against Mississippi State, 1-3 against Missouri. You circle that one. He is 1-0 against Tennessee and Texas. The Texas one is great. 1-1 against Florida and 1-0 against South Carolina. I mean, as an Arkansas fan, what stands out to you most there? Is that the Missouri record, or is that the A&M record, or what stands out to you?
I think it's the Missouri record. That just hurts. Like, that physically made me feel pain whenever I saw that 1-3 number against Missouri. The Alabama 0-4, it looks ugly, but then you consider the fact under Pittman, we've probably played Alabama closer than we have any time in the last 20 years, roughly. So I mean, he put out a team on the field that you could tell didn't look scared against Alabama last time they played him in Tuscaloosa. Against Auburn, as someone who just absolutely despises Auburn, that also makes my stomach turn just a little bit. Yeah, it's versus Texas looks good, but it also wasn't necessarily the same Texas that we're talking here. Yeah, that's kind of my take on it.
I got you. You're breaking up a little bit, but I think, we heard you. I think he said Auburn would be the one, and Missouri would be the one that stands out the most, I think. And he says Sam Pittman played the best, played out of the recent Arkansas coaches, played Alabama the best, which is all fair. But I will say this, in hindsight, Arkansas, and I always wonder about this with conference realignment stuff. You got so many teams that leave for the check, essentially. I think Arkansas is one of the first case studies you do. I always like to do a deep dive, and man, from 1960 to 1990 or 1992 or 91, whatever, they left for the SEC in 92. They only had two losing seasons in 67 and in 90. They were a force. Legendary coaches, legendary players. They joined the SEC in 92 and they've had 14 losing seasons since, and only 6, real great seasons of 9 wins or more. I do wonder, and you can do this with Nebraska. You can do this with Miami. You can do this with a lot of teams, I just wonder if would you prefer to be in the Big 12 or are you happy in the SEC?
I'm for some reason weirdly happy in the SEC. It used to, you used to be able to say that geographically it made more sense to be in the Big 12, with all the Oklahoma schools, all the Texas schools, with Arkansas being actually the furthest west of any other SEC team. Like, it made sense. Now with realignment, with Texas coming in, with Oklahoma coming in, I think it makes sense to stay. I would be enthused by a jump to the Big 12. I think the SEC and the money and the trickle down effect of that money is probably just too great for us to jump.
Sure. I just think, I always wonder if you lose nonstop. Now, I'm not saying Arkansas loses nonstop, but if you are dominating the other ranks in a way, that's how you got in the SEC. Like, if you're doing great, fan interest, but that was all at a different day and age, especially with Arkansas's case, where you saw like the influx of cable TV in college football kind of hit in 84, and within 7-8 years, Arkansas is an SEC team after that. So you didn't really get to see it in this day and age. And I wonder if, you going 10-2 in the Big 12 or something. And I wonder what that does long-term 20 years from now. You know what I mean? Like I believe winning always helps your fan base. And it's something that I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Now there's no more divisions in the SEC. I think getting out of the SEC West in a way and getting more games against Vanderbilt and against Kentucky and against South Carolina could potentially ignite that, because let's be honest, like when you watch Arkansas, whether it's basketball or football or baseball, their fans are awesome. Their fans deserve to be winning at the highest level, in my opinion. And for some reason, they haven't been able to do that. But when I really think about it, what the hell's the difference between Arkansas and Alabama? Like, I know the history, but Arkansas's got a rich history. Geographically, You're like, what? Alabama touches Georgia and Florida. That helps. But Arkansas has Texas and Tennessee and Memphis and Mississippi and stuff right there. I don't see it to be like some crazy thing. Now, obviously, Alabama's history is Alabama's history, but I'm just saying, like, I don't understand why you can't just dominate and win, especially in the NIL era. There's no pro team. And I just think that, maybe in the SEC, you could be fine. But I always wonder, both sides of the coin is like, what would it be like? Someone's got to lose these games in the SEC in this gigantic fucking conference now. 16 teams with Oklahoma and Texas coming in. And I wonder if those losing programs over a decade or two, not saying that it'll be Arkansas, I wonder the ramifications of that. And I wonder if some team in the Big 12, I don't know, Houston or whatever, whoever emerges, and all of a sudden they probably get a fan interest that they hadn't gotten before potentially, and more money comes in. And then you keep playing this game, because you can kind of do this with the history of college football in a way of say, go back and look at the, early 1900s, there are teams that are dominating. You get super excited about fucking Fordham or something. And then you shift to a different conference, you start losing, and then your fan interest leaves. I don't know. Arkansas's fan base will always be there, but I just think it's an interesting question to pose. Now, Sam Pittman, Danny Knows era over. Sam Pittman, he knows he's on the hot seat. He goes out and he makes the biggest headline, I think, in the whole college football offseason, at least to myself. And he brings in my Lord and Savior, the great, the legendary Bobby Petrino. Yes, he is back at home, returning to the scene of the crime. Oh, I have music, but I don't want to get a suit again that I would love to play for this. But Bobby Petrino, and if you talk, he got a standing ovation at the Arkansas basketball game when they signed him. this is a guy I know last season he was at Texas A&M after 2 weeks at UNLV, and A&M, it just didn't work out. It was similar situation in a way where like they were gonna fire the coach. It seemed like they did, and but you look back at what Bobby Petrino did at Arkansas. 5-7 year 1, 8-5 year 2, 10-3 year 3, 11-2 year 4. Fired for a little dust up on a motorcycle. You know what I mean? With an intern. You know what I mean? Just a little dust up. But I think it was a great hire considering the spot in the cards he's dealt right now. Your thoughts on Road Rash Face coming back to Fayetteville?
It's kind of mixed. I'll be honest. He deserved to go the first time. You can't nick the GA and then fall off a motorcycle. Have Arkansas
Do you want to
State
win in the SEC? Do you want to win in the SEC?
No, it's
all right.
I have a strange feeling about his offense, which is like, what's the running game going to look like? I remember a season when Niall Davis absolutely ran wild using zone blocking, strategies. We've got a mobile quarterback in. You see what he did with Lamar Jackson at Louisville, so that's a plus. Also, it's not like A&M had any sort of season to necessarily write home about, and they supposedly have all the talent in the world down in College Station. They're supposed to be every single year. They're supposed to be a top 10 team. I mean, is it, specifically his fault that they didn't make it to be a top 10 team? I doubt it. I think there's a lot going on, and Jimbo was pretty well mentally checked out at this point, I think. And I'll be happy and I'll be glad he's back if he wins. And then if he loses, then it'll just be like, I knew it all along that he wasn't going to make any sort of difference.
Well, I consider myself a Sam Pulled Pork Pittman guy, but I'd be lying to you if I wasn't rooting for an interim head coach to run away with Arkansas season, rattle off 6 straight wins or something, and get a lifetime contract there in Fayetteville and get a nice NIL deal at, Billy Bob's Motorcycles. Let's go. But anyway, I find this story awesome, and I think he's a good offensive coordinator. I think he's proven that. Last year, Jimbo's always a control freak when it comes to offense. I was surprised Petrino took the job in a way, but recently before that, he was at Missouri State and was decent at Missouri State. I know they played Arkansas a couple years ago, gave him a game. So this is the shoe fits. All right. Like if you want to be in the SEC, you look at Auburn, they got Hugh Strip Club freeze. You know what I mean? Now that's why I was so concerned about LSU hiring Brian Kelly. It just didn't make sense. Like you can't get like a straight laced guy. What are you doing? Now then when I saw his fake accent, I was like, all right, he's fitting into the SEC. All right. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a good hire. The offense was fucking terrible last year in many regards. 69th in scoring offense per game, 26.6 points per game. 10th that charted a 10th in the SEC. 107th in yards per game at 326.5. That was 13th in the SEC. There was only 14 teams last year in the SEC, so second to last. 87th in rush offense, 139 yards per game. That's 5th in the SEC. Sam Pulled Pork Pittman, former offensive line coach and just an offensive line guy. 107th in pass offense at a 187.5 yards per game. That was 12th in the SEC. 107th in total yards though, which is actually third best in the SEC, which to me, unless I inaccurately pulled that, I think maybe I messed that one up, but I mean, the offense wasn't great last year. And to me, what was worse to me or to you last year? What was the worst unit? Special teams, offense, defense, out of all three?
Offense, specifically the offensive line. I think so much of what we wanted to do was built off of the run, and we just could not get the running game going at all. And like I said, we were sacrificing way too many sacks. KJ spent most of that this season on ass, and so I really think the offense, proved to be a big problem just because we've seen that same offense with the same essentially the same personnel score a ton of points and do it, at will. Sometimes it seemed like, but it's it feels like if we don't have it in the trenches, and we don't have it at all, is kind of my take on it.
Yeah, and by the way, that if you're looking on at the sheet right now, it says 107th in total yards. That's not third in SEC. That's 12th. My apologies I forgot to fill that part out. But 107th in total yards. That was a big issue a year ago, and we'll see. The offense, you lost a shit ton of players. KJ Jefferson, the quarterback, that you were just alluding to earlier, he's now at UCF with Gus Malzahn. Jacoby Criswell goes back. It's like Chris Farley and Waynesboro. He's in Chapel Hill. He goes to Fayetteville, back to Chapel Hill, and I don't know what the hell happened there, but Rocket Sanders leaving for South Carolina was one that I was a little bit taken back on. AJ Green also headed off to Oklahoma State, who's on the schedule this year. Isaiah Gustave heading to the Colorado Buffaloes, and Coach Prime, he says, we coming. Dominic Johnson's also in the portal at the running back spot. Wide receiver Marlon Crockett headed out to Stephen F. Austin. Samuel Mbake to a JUCO route. Khalil Geralt in the portal. I don't know if he landed anywhere yet. Hunter Talley, a tight end, going to Missouri State. Francis Sherman, another tight end, but hasn't landed anywhere yet. So to me, like the receivers and the tight ends, those don't seem like big hits. Rocket Sanders and KJ Jefferson are gigantic hits. I know in the pod with Gerard in the chat still likes the running back room, but I can't help but think that you're that much better at those positions. I know we'll talk about what's coming in, but what was your reaction to Jefferson and Sanders leaving?
With KJ, I mean, I kind of get it. I think, you've been gifted this one extra COVID year. You get to, do whatever you want to do to, or do whatever you can do to make it to the league next year. And I mean, if you look at what Gus Malzahn does at UCF, he puts up flashy numbers with quarterbacks. So I get while he left, he was a true blue hog the entire time that he was here. And he played his guts out for the University of Arkansas. I got no beef with that. Rocket Sanders hurts. Rocket Sanders and AJ Green both hurt really bad because it leaves you with pretty much just Rashod Dubinion, when it comes to depth at running back with experience at the school. KJ hurts. I understand it. Rocket, I'm not sure if I'm sure why he goes. He must have been really frustrated last year to go. There's actually someone with the Arkansas bred horse named Rocket Sanders that I'm sure that they're regretting naming it that now since he's departed to South Carolina.
Subscribe to Chase hosts the Notorious OTB podcast. No one knows horse racing as well as Chase Sessoms. I was randomly driving throughout LA the other day, stopped in at Santa Anita. I said, what should I be betting on? He gives me a couple tips. I walk out of there feeling good about life as, I feel like 2 of his 3 plays hit. He knows horse racing. They call him the Wolf of Oaklawn. Check him out. But yeah, Rocket Sanders, AJ Green, KJ Jefferson, pretty substantial. I know in the pod with Gerard, and feel free to hit me up on Twitter, Gerard. Maybe we can make that happen. But he says Mbake was a huge loss at the wide receiver spot going to the JUCO routes. I don't know, but there's a second page to this because they also lost 2 offensive linemen, Andrew Chambly and Paris Patterson, to the SMU Mustangs. The dirt runs deep down there in Dallas. All right. And then Joey Sua to Arizona State. I don't know how substantial all of those are, but SMU seems to be buying everything right now. So it wouldn't shock me if those were nice gets from the Mustangs. They had George W. making phone calls saying, we're going to the ACC. All right.
Hey. Fool me once.
Nope.
Can't be fooled again.
He says, we don't need any money.
It's easy to see a tide turn.
Yeah, I mean, the portal, you took some hits. Now, offensively, you only bring 4 starters back, though, from a year ago. Andrew Armstrong, Luke Hasz at the tight end spot, Patrick Kudus, and Josh Braun. So 2 offensive linemen. You're counting on 3 offensive linemen, I believe you got from the portal to start for you guys. Wide receiver spot, Armstrong did flash last year, I thought. I know they're excited about, the possibility of him and Tyrone Broden and Isaiah. I'm drawing a blank on his last name right now. But yeah. And but you go out in the portal And you did bring in some talent. You brought in Taylen Green from Boise State, who, let me tell you, he is a talent. Now, he's a little raw to me. I was making this comparison. I feel like last year, maybe it was either last year or the end of the year prior. You remind me of Josh Allen at Wyoming, where he's just got a fucking cannon. The guy's got a cannon. He's super athletic. And he, like, you'll see a deep ball where you're just like, oh my God, who is this guy?
Yeah.
But then you watch like a 12-yard pass or, where you're just like, ugh. Like Josh Allen had that, and he fine-tuned it by the time he got to the NFL. But Taylen Green, to me, has potential. Like, he has like Heisman potential. If you can get him going, a lot of quarterbacks can't do what he can do. Also brought in Blake Boda from Coastal Carolina. But what's your take on Taylen Green in general?
I'm going to bring up a name that Arkansas fans will remember fondly and who he reminds me of. Matt Jones. He reminds me of Matt Jones, who went in the first round as a wide receiver. Can run the read option really well. He's fast as lightning. And I'm with you. He's a little bit green throwing the ball. You've seen some ugly downfield balls, but he's chucking it way downfield whenever he does chuck it. It's I don't know. I think that he's going to be a good fit, especially if it takes a little bit for the offensive line to gel, because he's going to be able to run away from some of the pressure that he's getting and turn some of these negative plays into positive plays.
Yeah, I'm really I'm fascinated by watching that. That's why I hope we can see. One of the worst things that can happen is if you just fire the whole offensive staff or something in the middle of the year, because I'd like to see Taylen Green just get the whole year under Petrino and Pittman. But Boda at Coastal Carolina was all right. I watched him play. But then you went out in the running back room, and this is where you can make the argument that the running back room, with returning, what is it, Dubinion? How do I pronounce that name? Dubinion. He's a stud. Yeah, he's a stud. And then Jaquindon Jackson, who started some at Utah, comes in. And same with Rodney Hill, was a big time recruit at Florida State. He was going to Florida A&M for whatever reasons. And you get Rodney Hill. He's talented. I kind of think, I know you lose a couple guys, but the running back room still seems solid to me. Pittman loves to emphasize the run. That's going to be interesting to watch too, because Bobby Petrino doesn't strike me as the most run-heavy football coach. But the running back room, I still think, despite some key losses, is in pretty good shape. Wouldn't you think so?
Yeah, and I mean, I give Bobby Petrino my share of shit in terms of like, oh, here comes another tight end drag, But he tends to do pretty well highlighting what he has talent-wise. If you look at the year that we had Nile Davis, it was zone blocking and Nile Davis running wild. Probably could have been a Heisman candidate had he been doing it all season. If you look at the first year that he got here, when he essentially had the same level of talent that we're seeing now, he takes DJ Williams, an undersized end, into a, drafted by the Green Bay Packers. I'm not sure he stuck on with them long, but turns him into an NFL talent and an all-SEC player. So I think he's going to do well to highlight what we have. It's just going to be up to what we have to actually step forward and let us know what direction this offense needs to go.
Yeah. Gerard in the chat saying Luke Hasz at the tight end spot is going to be the breakout player. Well, they brought in some guys also, I know, at the receiver spot. Jordan Anthony follows Bobby Petrino from Texas A&M to Fayetteville. So obviously Petrino's familiar with his game. Cafe Brown is a guy that I remember. Now it says, if you're watching on YouTube, it says from South Florida. I remember him at North Carolina, where he actually started some games at North Carolina. For whatever reason, things didn't work out there. Went to Jeff Scott in South Florida, or Alex Galesh at the, I think it was Scott first. But now he comes in. I think he's a talented player. And then Andres Pask, I believe it, or Pask from Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan. Chris Creighton is a great guy. He does a great job of developing players there. That they all leave in the portal. Unfortunately, if you're an Eastern Michigan fan,
right, it's
tough. But that's an interesting get there. Offensive line too. Addison Nichols comes in from Tennessee. I've heard rumors that he could start. Keyshawn Blackstock comes in from Michigan State. Fernando Carmona comes in from San Jose State. That's a guy I think they are excited about. That could be starting there. Joe Moore from Syracuse and Timothy to the break of dawn from Baylor. The O-line, you're starting 3 guys. You're starting 3 guys in the portal. You know, I don't know. Like, we've been previewing these teams for years. Like, I think this is year 8, and you wonder how much, like, before I would really pay attention to continuity at the offensive line, but I feel like every damn team for the most part, minus Georgia or Ohio State or something, has like 2 or 3 transfers that they're trying to make work. So should I be concerned about the offensive line because they're bringing in 3 starters and continuity really does matter, and you're breaking in a brand new quarterback and there's a lot of intangibles going on here? Is that a red flag to you? What do you think?
I think it is a red flag. I mean, you're banking on Fernando Carmona to come in and be a stud at tackle. If he is a stud at tackle, we might be all right. But like you said, there's the issue of continuity. Like we're just hot out a couple offensive linemen who have been there and trying to gel with the rest of their offensive linemen for a couple of years. Like, it takes a few games for offensive lines to gel it and get going. It's a concern for me. It's less of a concern because of the mobility of Taylen Green. If they could just run block, then you know, the pass protection, if that comes along a little bit slower, I'm okay with. But if they can come out, just start blowing people off the ball early and then racking up run yards, then I think we might be in, you know, it could possibly be in for a fairly decent season.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a big storyline. Before we talk defense, folks, I want to tell you that, you're listening to the College Football Experience, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and the NBA Finals are tipping off this week, and we're giving away $100 cash and a $100 SGPN gift card to the listener who wins our NBA Finals prop contest. Head over to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/NBA Finals to enter. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/NBA Finals. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. We just talked about this. The NBA playoffs, the NBA finals are here, and our sponsor, Underdog Fantasy, wants to make it a lot more interesting for you. Underdog Fantasy is the easiest place to play fantasy sports. Playing their pick'em game is as simple as selecting higher or lower on player stats like points, rebounds, assists, and much, much more. You can make entries of all basketball or mix and match across your favorite sports, which I actually think is awesome. And they have college football. When college football starts up, you're going to see we're going to be playing the hell out of this. But, you know, it's a lot of places don't let you mix across sports. You could load up a couple NBA guys, a UFL, spring football, or NHL or MLB, and just the fact you can do that, I really think if you know those sports, you can really have an edge. You can win up to 100 times the amount of money you enter. It's a ton of fun. Underdog's available in 30 plus different states, including California and Texas, and even the great country of Canada. And look, in Florida, they recently tried to ban, props. Here's the old play action fake here. They just launched their champions, their player versus player format for the great state of Florida. So what are you doing, folks? Sign up. And what do you do? Sign up with the promo code TCE SGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $250 in bonus cash. Underdog Fantasy, promo code TCE SGPN. All right, we are back on the College Football Experience. Arkansas Razorbacks 2024 season preview. In 2023, the defense, they hired Travis Williams away from UCF. It was year one with Travis Williams, 80th in scoring per game at 27. They were giving up 27.9 points per game. That was 10th best in the SEC. 47th in yards per game, 357.2 yards per game. That was 8th in the SEC. 76 in rush defense, 154.4 yards per game. 10th in the SEC. 32nd though in pass defense, 202.8 yards per game. That charted at 5th best in the SEC. And 47th in total yards, 357.2 yards per game. That was 8th in the SEC. So it's weird. In certain, you have the 5th best pass defense. To me, pretty good. But at the same time, 10th best rush defense. You're getting into tough territory there. Same with the scoring situation. But what do you make of the defense and what his first year Travis Williams did in Fayetteville?
I thought I saw really encouraging things from the defense, and the defense stat. I mean, we had a couple of players there that I think we're going to miss sorely when it comes to the pass defense, like people like Dwight McLaughlin, a safety or cornerback that actually had a lot of ball skills. Also, we were starting a white cornerback in the SEC. I don't know how well that goes over most times.
I mean, I watch Iowa football. I like to think the pendulum's starting to swing. But anyway, yes, that is a fair point.
Yeah, it's I think the defense I'm more excited about because I'm ready to see what the second year, under was going to look like in terms of, because they're switching scheme. You're coming from a 3-4 into a 4-3. You have to completely rebuild the defense to get the personnel that you want. I thought he did a good job of getting in the personnel that he wanted last year in terms of getting in, like, was it Trajan Jackson from Missouri, and getting good twitchy defensive ends. I think another year kind of building these people's bodies to fit them into the mold is going to put them in a good spot.
Yeah. And I believe Jeff Coat is who you're thinking of, but that's
right. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good, man. The defense does return 5 stars and potentially 6. It's hilarious. You're doing your homework on this and you're just like, I don't know what you would say is a returning starter. Did you have to start majority of the season? They have Jalen Braxton at the corner who did get some starts. So it could be 6 starters back depending on how you look at it, but Landon Jackson, Eric Gregory, and Cameron Ball, all on the defensive line. I actually think that there's a unit you circle on this whole team that stands out to me. It's probably the defensive line as far as they're most talented. Hudson Clark is back at the safety spot. Same with Jaden Johnson. And then, like I said, if you add in the potential starter, like I said, it's hilarious listening to podcasts or trying to get intel. No, we're returning 7 starters, and I go back and I load up my look at my spreadsheet of who started each game, and I'm like, well, they only started 3 games. You can really make a defense look great or an offense look great. Say we're returning 10 starters, but anyway, those guys are back. They did go out in the portal, and I'll tell you one that. Anton Junka, that is Albany had Jared Verse, who went to Florida State, became a first-round draft pick. I host the FCS College Football Experience. Subscribe, and Albany just has produced really good defensive linemen. So, like their coaching staff is underrated in my opinion on the defensive line. So I highlighted that one. They also brought in Danny Solly from BYU, and then this is a huge one here. Xavier Sori from Georgia comes over to the linebacker spot because the linebacker spot is a gigantic question mark on this team. But Sori, I think, is going to be a very good player on this team. They also brought in Larry Worth from Jacksonville State with Rich Rodriguez. He played well there. Stephen Dix coming in from Marshall at the linebacker spot, and then in the secondary, Anthony Switzer from Utah State. He had I'm very familiar with his work. I was at Mountain West Media Day, covered the Mountain West pretty strongly there. He's a nice get for them. Marquise Robinson from South Alabama comes in and then how do I pronounce this guy's name? Danico Slaughter from Tennessee. And I believe Slaughter is penciled in to be, like a difference maker as far as starting maybe in dime packages, whatever you got there. I think that's one that really might matter. Kicker Matthew Shipley also comes in from Hawaii. Now they did lose a bunch. Let's talk about what they lost, because Anthony Booker is now SMU just coming in. Fuck's going on here. Torrin Carter off to Colorado. I actually think that the Buffs are very happy with him, according to the practice reports that I saw. So maybe that loss might mean something. Rashod Stewart also hit the portal. Chris Paul Jr. to Ole Miss. That one, circle that one. What an asshole. Going to Ole Miss too. Jaheim Thomas going to Wisconsin. Jordan Cook leaves for Arizona State. Manny Powell to UNLV with Barry Odom. Gets reconnected with Barry Odom. Lorando Johnson to Baylor. He was previously at Baylor. What the hell is going on? Once again, the Chris Farley back to Waco. RJ Johnson heads off to Coach Prime there in Colorado. Jalen Lewis to Temple. Ladarius Bishop to UNLV. Malik Chavez to UNLV. UNLV, SMU coming in strong on this portal. But who's the guy? I see the chat already talking about this. Chris Paul Jr. I think is the one that does stand out. But I still think Lorando Johnson stands out. And judging by some of the reports, now maybe they're blowing smoke, Carter seems to be a decent loss. Am I crazy here? I know the defensive line's a strong suit, so maybe he just wants more opportunity. But what stands out to you on what you lost?
what stands out to me, like you said, before I mentioned anything else with the defensive line, is Chris Paul Jr. and that linebacker spot. We had a good stretch of, consistent linebacker play for a couple years, and now just the cupboard is bare. We haven't done a good job of recruiting it. Fortunately, with getting like Xavier Sori in, we're able to kind of plug and play and try to develop some depth behind him. Because right now, I can tell you, a sophomore and a redshirt freshman behind Xavier Sori is concerning if Xavier Sori goes down. I think that, defensive line-wise, it always hurts. It hurts to lose like Torian Carter because you're in a league where it's going to take a lot of bodies to play defensive line, and just anything that loses depth is always concerning. I don't know why they're going to Colorado, SMU, or UNLV, but there must be something good going on at those places, NIL-wise or coach-wise. I mean, UNLV, you can understand as a Barry Odom, and a lot of players have Barry Odom connections. But, SMU and Colorado are a bit of a mystery to me. And I think that Torian Carter is a little bit of a loss. Anthony Booker is a little bit of a loss. But we'll see. I like what we have right now, just maybe not as much depth-wise.
Yeah. Do me a favor if you can. If you could exit and come back, see if that connection, because that was a very choppy, I think, for the listeners. If you want to try to exit and come back, but I think it's one of the more fascinating questions is, because you see it so often, especially I just previewed Georgia yesterday, and you had so many players leave Georgia, but that's normal at big time schools like Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State normally have more players leaving, and sometimes they're like kind of getting cut in a way. Whereas with Arkansas, though, I do think it's a question you got to ask yourself is this many players leaving a good thing? I know you were gone there, Chase, but I think one of the things I was trying to highlight is this many players leaving the portal at Arkansas a good thing? Because I feel like a lot of times your best schools always kind of lose like 30 guys in the portal, get like 5. But they're okay because those guys, some of them were getting cut. But at Arkansas, to have this much turnover, so and I feel like maybe that's just every team now. But you think that's something that potentially could affect this team this year? Is you're trying to Mickey Mouse this thing. You're trying to fill up all these spots that you return 5 starters on offense, 6 on defense, depending on how you look at it. Do you feel like that is going to be an issue? Is continuity, how fast you can get this team going?
Yeah, absolutely. Because everybody on defense depends on someone else to do their job, and whenever you don't know the person next to you very well and don't know what they tend to do, the continuity is a big question. Whenever we get rated by the transfer portal, you're right. It's not a good thing as opposed to kind of trimming the fat like you get at some of the bigger schools.
Yeah, and welcome to UAB is it's making fun of your internet connection. But shout out to welcome to UAB, longtime listener. I think it's going to be interesting to watch. Do you think when it's all said and done, do you think this year's defense will be better than last year's defense?
I think it will be a little bit better because we're getting more of the people that we need to fit the scheme. It's hard to take 3-4 players and plug them into a 4-3 and expect them to go from, people who are just eating blocks on the offense to the defensive line to people who are actually out there making plays and getting pressure on the quarterback. So I think having another year learning technique, another year building your body for the 4-3 is going to pay off quite a bit for the defense.
All right. Well, look, we hit on what they lost, what they gained. And there was a few more losses that I didn't even get to with Ja'Cory Turner going to Georgia State and then some special teams losses, but hey, I'm not going to highlight those. The win total is at 4.5. We're going to talk about that. I mean, first reaction to 4.5, without diving into the schedule, because we're going to go into the schedule, but first reaction, smash it, right? Over, right?
Yeah.
Look, I know Lou Holtz used to coach the University of Arkansas. Chase Sessoms sounding a lot like Lou Holtz.
Well, I don't get the brain man call. But
look, I don't know. We're gonna get to it, but before we dive into that, I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Rhythm. If you're betting on NBA player props, then you need to download Rhythm. That's RITHMM. Rhythm gives you a menu of the best player props for every single NBA playoff game, making it easy to go through and find the best props to put your money on in a matter of seconds. Rhythm's predictions are backed by over 3 years of data and a team of data scientists and quants that focus on fine-tuning their algorithm to give you the best shot at winning. Rhythm pairs its predictions with player prop graphs to help you feel even more confident. And you will always want to feel confident in your picks, which you can make wherever you normally place your bets or DFS, whatever. From superstars to bench players, Rhythm finds the best player prop lines, all backed by AI data without you needing to endlessly scroll through a sports book. Claim a free 7-day trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. Once again, that's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. We're also brought to you by Naira. Yes, NYRA. Bet the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga with Naira Bets. Join now to claim your $25 free bet and $200 deposit bonus just in time for the Belmont Stakes at NairaBets.com/SGPN25. And remember to get your free $25 free bet and $200 deposit bonus for the Belmont Stakes. Go to nyrabets.com/SGPN25. All right, we are back. Look, I mean, J-Rod in the chat saying over easy, lock this thing up. Now, there's no odds to make the 12-team playoff, unfortunately, but to win the Natty, you're at plus 40,000. SEC champ plus 20,000. I mean, and by the way, the juice on the over under is minus 150 to the over, plus 130 to the under. So Gerard's right that Vegas foresees them going 5-7. So the over would hit and you'd be making some money, but you seem a little weary on this. I know we're going to go through the schedule, but why are you so weary just, before we get to every game?
I think it's just because there's so much transition going on. There's so much transition on offense. There's so much transition on defense. Like we said, we're both thinking the words interim coach Bobby Petrino. Well, things aren't going great if we're thinking interim coach Bobby Petrino. I look at the schedule and I see 2 to 3 guaranteed wins. Guaranteed. Anything more than that is going to be a dogfight.
I'm about to preview Florida later tonight. We're doing our Florida episode, and I think there's parallels between Arkansas and Florida because there's a chance. You wonder about player buy-in if they fire the coach. You know what I mean? Like, it's a gauntlet of a schedule. You see this, I feel like, more today than you ever have before. And there's plenty of examples. I think the last time Florida fired Mullen. You know what I mean? Like, but there's plenty of examples, of teams that they look like they quit once the fire has happened, essentially. That's something to worry about if you're going to bet this over. If you're betting this over, you got to worry about if that happens. But let's go week by week on the schedule here. Look, if you're wondering what the numbers are on the screen, I ranked what I think are their toughest games 1 to 12. The schedule is tough, but I'll be honest, man, considering some of the years of the past where I always felt like the SEC dealt Arkansas an unfair hand. I have done a deep dive on this for 20 years, 25 years, and I've always felt like they gave Arkansas a fucked up schedule. There's certain things, like, to me, like when you cover the sport, like we do 365, you notice certain trends. I thought Iowa State always gets fucked in the Big 12, right? And you're always just like, why do they do this? Like, how? I almost feel like you could sue them, because I'm like, how do you keep giving them this? I think it was it last year or the year before, that you just spent a month on the road, which just never happens to other Power 5 schools. You know what I mean? So it's I think, but you're out of the SEC West. I think this is it's still a challenging schedule because you're in the SEC and there's 16 teams and most of them are good. But I'm saying, am I crazy for thinking this is a little lighter than normal? You there? You freeze up? Did you freeze up? Did you hear me?
I'm back though. I didn't hear you. They didn't hear the last part. Sorry.
Am I crazy for thinking the schedule is a little lighter than most years?
You don't see the words Alabama, but if you think about it, can't replace the word Bama with Texas at this point in terms of how strong that program is rolling right now?
Sure. And look, I mean,
Tennessee, that's no picnic. Texas.
Yeah. No, it's still a brutal schedule. Like I'm just saying, like when I look, I don't see back-to-back away, you sort of have the A&M game, but I mean, before you would get dealt this like absolute death blow. Yes, do I think there's a lot of really good teams? I mean, you could be looking at a situation where you're playing 3 or 4 playoff teams. All right, week 1, you're home to Arkansas Pine Bluff, who is not very good in the FCS. So Pittman and Petrino are going to dominate the Golden Lions. I don't even need to ask you on this one, but week 2 is the one I do find incredibly interesting because Oklahoma State brings back, like, I think one of the top 10, they're top 10 in returning production. And I know Gerard in the chat's talking about their defense was 122nd last year, but they did bring in a new DC, right? So I think the defense will be better this year. Now, obviously, that still doesn't mean they'll be good, but I will say this: Ollie Gordon is back, and anytime you have a quarterback that is 30 years old, it's a huge advantage to me. So I think Oklahoma State, Alan Bowman is back. I favor Oklahoma State to win that game, man. Who do you favor in Stillwater there on September 7th?
I think it's Oklahoma State. Granted, Oklahoma State kind of tends to lose early and then go on a quiet run late in the season.
That's true. That's true. That Gundy traditionally sucks in September, which is why I kind of like South Dakota State to pull the upset week 1, and maybe Arkansas can get him too. Because I will say, in September he has had his struggles.
Yeah, and with what we're returning in the secondary, I mean, looking at Oklahoma State, it just off the top of my head, I'm thinking they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. So it's going to be hard on a new secondary essentially. So I think it's close. I mean, I think it's a close game, but I give the nod to Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I still would too, just with what they're returning. Week 3, Trent Dilfer and UAB, and that's why Welcome to UAB is in here. The Blazers. Look, I didn't see anything super encouraging from Trent Dilfer in year 1 to me.
I never doubt the Dilf. I just knowing what I know about Arkansas seasons. If we have trouble at Oklahoma State, look out in that UAB game. Right now, I think it's a win. But if we have trouble and the wheels start coming off early, then we're not above getting nipped by a mid-major. It's happened a lot.
Welcome to UAB saying Dilf madness is at an all-time high. Let's go. Yeah, so I got him 2-1. And now I think is the most pivotal for Sam Pittman's future. I see that bye week on October 12th, and I go, is there a chance they fire him on October 12th or that week? Because the next 3 games tell a lot. All right, they go so after UAB, they head to the Plains to take on Hughes Strip Club Freeze and the Auburn Tigers. I was surprised that Auburn didn't do more in the portal. They're still rolling the dice with Peyton Thorne. I did think they beefed up the defensive line though in the portal. I have to favor Auburn because it's on the Plains, but it's a winnable game to me. Like, it wouldn't shock me if Arkansas won the game. But who do you have favored here?
It's a big time revenge spot. I think you have to consider because they put the spanking on us last year, and I gotta lean L also because it's on the Plains. So I've got them 2-2 at this point.
Yeah, but the reason why I really want to emphasize these 3 games is because I think this tells the tale if Pittman's fired or not. I think you got to be 2-1 in this 3-game stretch that starts with Auburn. So if we got them 0-1, now they get the neutral site game at Jerry's World. I'm so excited about this being the final fucking game. I hate this game at Jerry's World. I like this rivalry. I like it played on campus. I'm so excited for the future of that happening. Hopefully, as far as I know. Mike Elko at Texas A&M. I love that hire.
Yeah, it's that Duke team, Duke was my betting darling last year. I loved betting that Duke team because you always got great value. I think Elko's a fantastic coach.
Yeah, and that's why I would favor A&M in this spot too, man. And these games are always insane, so I can't say that with confidence. You remember what the goalpost? They had like a field goal hit the top of the goalpost. You had that KJ Jefferson tried to Superman jump like 10 yards, fumbles the ball, return for a touchdown. Jimbo escapes. These games are always insane, but they also end up normally with like an A&M really close win. I got to favor A&M. It's in the state of Texas. I know they say it's a 50-50 crowd. I don't know that I fully would agree to that, but I lean A&M here. So I would put them at 2-3. You?
I kind of lean towards Arkansas in this one, just because we're catching Mike Elko in his first year. Bobby Petrino traditionally coached pretty well against Texas A&M. And these games are always close. And also, is it okay if I swear? Because this is for someone.
Yes, we encourage that here.
Yeah. Let's go Hogs. Fuck you, Cameron. That's
Cam Kerr. Yes, he's the guy who does our graphics, Texas A&M grad. So in that regard, I will say go Hogs. Fuck you, Cameron. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got this as a lot. I think Elko in year one at Duke, he did great. So to me, and I think he also has a leg up because he recruited a lot of these players at A&M. So he knows it's not, he was before Duke, he was the defense coordinator at Texas A&M. So I do think he's a little more plugged in. It's not your traditional just, rough start in knowing the personnel. I think he has a pretty good idea of the personnel. So I have them at 2-3. You got them at 3-2. And then this is the big one here. I will say, I see an upset brewing. I could see this one happening. They're going to get someone we're not expecting. They're not that bad of a team. You look, like I said, you look at last year's team, they beat Florida. I know Florida was ass, but they were in so many games. I just feel like they're not a horrible team. It's just, but you look at Tennessee, they hardly ever play first off, but Tennessee, they do have a bye week before this game, which is a little concerning, but I think they could get Tennessee here. I don't think Tennessee's some juggernaut, especially on the road. Give me, Nico on the road, as Gerard's saying in the chat. He hasn't at this point. How many road starts will he have had in his career? Tennessee have the Oklahoma game on September 21st, but other than that, this is his second road start of his career. This is a win. Now the question is going 1-2 in the stretch during this bye week. If you're sitting there at 3-3, which I have them, do they fire Sam Pittman? And I'm curious, do you have them beating Tennessee?
It's tough. I think that you might have a loss at Tennessee just because of where we're falling in the schedule. Like, you've got two very emotional games leading into this between Texas A&M, where you barely lost basically I heard you say by the field goal that somehow went over the upright.
These games are always insane. They're always insane, but I feel like they have their number.
Yeah, you've got your revenge spot at Auburn leading into that. That's 3 straight weeks of emotional football. I think that we take the L with Tennessee, which is tough. And I also really like kind of what Tennessee has going in turn with Josh Heupel and everything. So I think they'll put out a good squad, and I just don't think we're quite there yet with where Tennessee is right now. Where Tennessee was a couple of years ago, we're right in line with where they were. But when it comes to where they are right now, I'm taking that as an L.
All right. Well, then you get your first bye week, and Pittman stays 3-3, no firing.
I think so, because you've got a SEC win. You've still got your brightest spots of the schedule ahead of you. I think you might still keep them at 3-3.
Well, and there's 2 bye weeks nowadays. Starting this year, so they might fire him on the second bye week. That every team gets 2 bye weeks. So, coming out of the bye week on October 12th, they're home to LSU, and man, I know. First off, fuck you, SEC. I want Arkansas and LSU to end the season every year, and I want them to end the season in Little Rock, not Fayetteville. Little Rock. You were the one that really put me onto this, but I did a deep dive on it. And let's bring that back. Dude, Pittman plays LSU better than almost any coach, in my opinion. Like, short of maybe Saban or something. Like, dude, he's 1-3, but his 3 losses, I think all 3 are by a field goal. Get the fuck out of here, man. They got to get him one of these times, but I do think LSU, a lot of people think LSU went out and hired a very good defensive coordinator. They were horrible on defense a year ago. And I think Nussmeier, son of Doug Nussmeier, the former NFL quarterback, Garrett Nussmeier, I think he's a stud. I favor LSU in this one, but look, Pittman plays him. It wouldn't shock me. Who you taking here?
I think we always play them close, regardless of who the coach is. Considering what LSU is losing with a Heisman winner going out, you are concerned by people like what's his name, Harold Perkins Jr., the linebacker from LSU, who is just an absolute monster and what he could do to our offensive line. He could really wreak havoc, but this is another one where I think we just catch him in a great spot in the schedule. I'm going to go ahead and lean Arkansas for the win against LSU at home.
Look, I know, like, it's battle for the boot, rivalry game, should be the end of the season, but LSU does have A&M on deck at A&M, but man, I don't know. I'd still got to go LSU by a field goal. I could see this. This is pivotal for your win total over, though, because at 3-3, you get one of these wins here. Now, the very next week, they're in Starkville. Jeff Lebby comes in with the offense I just can't stand. The run your quarterback and slide, Dylan Gabriel offense, and just try to bait someone to a 15-yard penalty. So just with my sheer hatred for this offense, give me Arkansas to beat Mississippi State and Starkville, even though they have those. Starkville's got a great home edge, man. But I'm taking Arkansas to get this one. So I got them 4-4, going into Starkville, winning a close game. They lost 7-3 a year ago. This time they get them. They get them somehow, some way in Starkville. Your thoughts?
I think it's a terrible letdown spot, terrible sandwich spot between LSU and Ole Miss. They're much better coached this year.
Yeah, you're breaking up as some right there. I think your screen froze.
But
you're gonna have to say that again, I think, because Gerard in the chat has about 5-3, but Jeff Lebby, look, I could talk to you. He certainly is more qualified as a head coach than Zach Arnett was, but so you got him losing this one. Yeah, I don't know. We're having technical difficulties here. Chase, you got him losing this one?
Yeah, I think it's a terrible spot in the schedule. I think they're better coached this year under Jeff Lebby, honestly.
Okay, so then they are home to Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. Ole Miss going all in. They're going all in. I still think they're kind of a pretender. They're kind of like the North Carolina of the SEC, but I think Ole Miss's roster is better than Arkansas's right now. But it wouldn't shock me if Arkansas won this game. I'll go Ole Miss. But what are you doing here?
I'll go Ole Miss with it being at home with the bye week coming up behind it. I think that, I think it's as J-Rod pointed out, that the home team has been winning this game the last couple years in a row. And so we finally get to see if we can hold serve here. So I'll give them the win versus Ole Miss, though I do think that they probably are a little bit more talented top to bottom.
Yeah. So I got them sitting right now at 4-5 with 3 games left. I don't know. It's going to be tricky. Well, not really, because first you have the Texas Longhorns. Please win this game. Last time Texas won, was Sark their coach or was that Herman?
That was Sark.
Oh, please. Yes, please get him. Look, if there's one win on this whole goddamn schedule I want from Arkansas, it's on November 16th. I got to favor Texas though. So that would put them at 4-6 for me. How about yourself?
I got to favor Texas as well, which puts me 4-6 also.
Yeah, and Texas's secondary was a big problem. Jeff Choate heads off to Nevada, the defensive coordinator. So they have some question marks, and they lost both defensive tackles that were studs a year ago. But I still got to favor Texas, but please I hope I'm wrong. Then Louisiana Tech on November 23rd. Look, I think Sonny Cumbie's fired by now. So I think you're going to get Louisiana Tech with an interim head coach. This is a for sure win. And this hits that over 5 wins. You got them beating La Tech.
I'll give him the win versus La Tech. Yeah. I looks like I'm more in on it than I thought I was at this point. So yeah, let's hit that over. Let's go Texas here.
Let's
sorry,
go.
yeah, I'm gonna get some Louisiana Tech.
Cash that over. And then final game of the season, the border battle. Yeah, head to Columbia, Missouri. I think Missouri's in a good spot to have a really good year, and I got Missouri winning this. I got you guys going 5-7. Let me ask you something. If you lose that, what's the game that they would fire Pittman? Would it be after Texas?
I think it would be after the LSU, Mississippi State, Ole Miss stretch. If he can't win,
Petrino could beat Texas then.
Ooh, that's intriguing. That's very intriguing.
I could see that.
Head coach off of a bye against Texas. Wow.
I like Sam Pittman though, man. I don't want him fired, but I almost think he's just fighting with the bad hand right now. But I got 5-7. I'm curious what Rashod has him in the chat. But you got him 5-7 as well, missing a bowl. I got to ask you then, who do they go for? Do they try to just keep Petrino there? Do they go out and try to get a big time coach? I mean, is there interest, maybe in Jeff Traylor from UTSA or something like that? I don't know. I mean, do they try to get, what if they got Jimbo Fisher?
Oh my God. I already have enough. I have issues with the Calipari hire. Like, I don't know if I could do Jimbo and Calipari at the same time.
That would be so funny. Yeah,
just the people that I've talked the most shit about in my just career as a person are the people who end up coming back to coach Arkansas. It turns out,
Jimbo would be so great. That'd be so great for college football.
I feel like the Petrino hire was just like a low key like succession plan a little bit. Like they were like, okay, we'll make him the interim coach and then we'll put the official tag on him. And it will be like a sneaky way to get the people who don't agree with it to agree.
Yeah. And then what about if TCU has a good year? Maybe they bring Kendall Briles back.
Maybe. I think that kind of depends on what Kendall Briles wants to do, because he's got more Texas connections than he does Arkansas connections. I think the name that you put out there that I would be excited about that has Arkansas connections is Jeff Traylor.
Yeah, I think that's one you circle that they definitely have enough money for that. Welcome to UAB, says Jeff Fisher. Welcome to UAB. What do you have Arkansas doing? He says Jeff Fisher. What's your final record? Gerard saying 7-5, which look, I could build you a scenario where they go 7-5.
There's some of these that are coin flips,
Yeah, like I could build you a scenario where they start off 3-0. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Oklahoma State, UAB. Let's say they lose to Auburn and A&M, but they get one of those between Auburn, A&M, and Tennessee, and they're 4-2. They got a bye week, and between LSU, Mississippi State, and Ole Miss, let's say they grab one of those or two of those. They could easily get two of those, right? Yeah. Then all of a sudden you're sitting there at 5 wins, and you got, or no, 6. That would be 6 wins, and then you have Louisiana Tech, which would be 7. I could totally see it. So, either way, it's going to be exciting. I do think the over is the play, but it's a terrible. See, you will not hear this on the locks episode because I hate taking an over on a team that could fire their coach early in the year. Because I could also build you this case. Let's say they beat Pine Bluff and lose to Oklahoma State, and like you said, what if UAB sneaks up and bites them, right? And now I'll still say they beat you at UAB. Sorry, welcome to UAB, but then you could end up with, like you said, there's three guaranteed wins here.
Yeah,
And
everything else is dicey.
I mean, and even that UAB spot, if Trent Dover's just a little bit better, you saw what Liberty beat him a couple years ago. Missouri State played Arkansas tough. I don't know, man. That's why I don't recommend betting this. I don't think it's a great bet taking the over, even though I'm taking the over. Welcome UAB
minus 150. You said was the.
If you're gonna, and if you're gonna take the under is what plus 130. But I don't know. I just feel like there's 5 wins on the schedule. I think Vegas nailed it.
Yeah, it's it's my heart wants it to be over, but my head also tells me that the best gambling play is maybe this under, because it could, like we said, this could go one of two ways. This could go really well, or this could go really, really bad. We've seen it when we expect it to go really, really well, go really, really bad before. And if I'm expecting it to go really, really bad, I'm very worried, I guess would be what I'm saying. But I could still see 5 wins. I can still see 5 and 7. I could maybe even see 6 and 6.
Yeah. So when you got Calipari, all that Tyson chicken money came in there, right? Isn't that his connection? Any chance that could spread over to football, and I don't know, you go out and land Urban Meyer or something?
Yeah, if we could get that Tendies money, on the football, then that would be pretty good. And please no Urban Meyer. You're just throwing out names of coaches that will make my skin crawl. But yeah,
John L. Smith. No.
Oh, you get behind him. You gotta support him.
I actually would love Ed Orgeron at Arkansas, but I want him to coach it just for his press conferences. Folks, that is our show. We're going team by team. We got the Florida Gators. We're previewing in about at 5:30 Pacific, 8:30 Eastern. Check out the Florida Gators preview. Shout out to Chase Sessoms here, doing the Lord's work, helping us out here. Talk Arkansas football. He's a longtime fan, and check out his podcast, the Notorious OTB podcast. Where they call him the Wolf of Oaklawn. Oaklawn is a great racetrack there in the great state of Arkansas. I know you also talk football with our guy XFL Jim. What plug that show for me?
Yeah, he and I do the gymnasium every Sunday night or sometimes Monday. But you can find that on my Twitter @of Oaklawn. I'm always there being abrasive. And we'll even live stream the UFL games.
Love it. Go watch some UFL action with the guys. And welcome to UAB, says Mark Stoops follows Calipari to Arkansas. That would be hilarious considering their hatred for one another. But Gerard says Dan Mullen. Dan Mullen could be that guy. Anyway, folks, that's our show. We'll be back. We're previewing all 134 teams. Like I said, we're giving the same amount of attention to Kennesaw State or Akron that we do, or UAB that we do to Arkansas or Tennessee or whoever, Texas. But give us a follow. We've been doing this shit for years at TCE on SGPN. I'm on Twitter at @TheColbyD. Give me a follow there too. And by the way, Chase is on Twitter @of Oaklawn, I believe, right? Oaklawn. So give him a follow. And check out the College Football Experience podcast on YouTube, youtube.com/the College Experience. Hit that like and subscribe button. Also, I host the FCS College Football Experience, and also I host the Stadium Heads podcast with Michael Barker of College Football Campus Tour, AKA College Football Campus Tour. You want to hear just about college football and great stadiums and why college football is the greatest thing to hit planet Earth? Check out the Stadium Heads podcast. Besides that, check out the College Basketball Experience. We're already talking Calipari. And the College Baseball Experience. I know Arkansas just had a disappointing loss to Kansas State the other day, or a couple disappointing losses, and now they're out. But I know they keep a good baseball program, and they have great fans that lift up fucking possums and chug a beer. Just good shit like that. But until next time, folks, this is the College Football Experience. Arkansas Razorback style. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot.